ISIS butchers 70 Christians in Congo church. A horrifying massacre in Kasanga, Democratic Republic of the Congo, or DRC, has left the world in shock after 70 Christians were brutally beheaded inside of a church, with evidence pointing to the Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF, an ISIS affiliated terror group. Witnesses report that the victims, including women, children, and elderly, were tied up and decapitated with knives after being kidnapped on February 12th. According to an Aid to the Church in Need, or ACN source, uh, quote, "If you get tired on the way, you're done. I believe that is what happened to these 70 people." The ADF, designated as a terrorist organization by Uganda and the US, has been terrorizing the region for over a decade, escalating its attack to instill fear and exert control. So, there is a lot of different stuff to go over here. So, I want to give like a little bit of a brief background. So, the ADF is an Islamist militant organization that was originally founded in Uganda in the 1990s, and then it like later entrenched itself in the really volatile eastern region of the DRC and launched this insurgency, and then it expanded operations. And basically between like the mid 2010s, um they kind of swore allegiance to ISIS. So they weren't originally ISIS, and then they formally established ties with ISIS in 2018 and pledged allegiance to ISIS in 2019. And so, by many people who analyze and track ISIS, they are considered to be part of like Islamic State's Central African province. So, the way that, Armin describes ISIS as like a franchise, they have these regional managers, you could say. There's ISIS K, so that's ISIS Khorasan, which covers parts of Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan. There's ISIS, like ISWAP, so ISIS Islamic State Western African Province. There's IS Central African Province, etc. So you have these little branches. Um, and so basically it's kind of weird. According to investigations, the UN found that there is no evidence of like ISIS central command over ADF operations, but this allegiance is for ideological and propaganda purposes. And nevertheless, when the ADF will do stuff, they will claim responsibility for it and use it to bolster their message and show their effectiveness, so forth. So, what happened here? So, it should be noted that the ADF has not formally claimed this attack, but they all believe it to be part of this ISIS affiliate attack because of the pattern of behavior here. So here's what we know so far. We think that on February 12th, there were people that were assaulting this village, and then they went door to door and captured like 20 people at gunpoint. And then they left, and then they returned, and then took another 50 people. And so what the pat this is so bad. This is so bad. So what the ADF does is they will kidnap large groups of people and basically take them and force march them on a death march where they will take all these hostages and force them into work or labor, or essentially use them as human shields. So they kidnap all these people, they take them, they force them to, I don't know, dig up a trench for them, or or help them if this group raids an entire village and steals a bunch of stuff, they'll take all these hostages at gunpoint and force them to carry all this stuff that they looted, for example. But they take them on these essentially a death march, like where if you are not able to keep up, if like they slaughter all the men, take the women, children, and elderly. If you're not able to keep up, they execute you. And so essentially that's what people think happened here to all these victims in a mostly Christian area. And that they purposefully went and committed this act of this massacre within this church. Like, these people probably were not from the area directly where the church was. They like marched them there to a certain point, like, for the purpose of exacting terror and for the purpose of sending a message and being as violent and bloody and instilling as much fear as possible. Um and they do this intentionally, as a form of religious persecution, and, this pattern of attack has caused entire Christian communities to just flee en masse. Um, so while the ADF has not, or no one's formally claimed this attack as far as I know at this point, based on the pattern of behavior and pattern of attack, that's where people are attributing it to.
So am I reading this correctly? They took them in. They did this inside the church, right? I'm reading that they
Yeah,
tied them up. Okay, so they tied them up inside the church, and apparently they went at them with machetes and hammers and machetes. So I'm just trying to imagine that. Imagine a church filled with 70 Christians, and these ISIS people are above their head, holding machetes and hammers and going through them one by one.
dude,
And
I know, I was
imagine you
thinking
being
about that too.
one of the people who have not got to you yet, and you're just watching other people just being tied up and somebody going with the hammer at. This is also a very painful way to die. Like, you don't die very fast with machetes, like, because it's not like a, anyway, as it's discussed. But imagine the horror, that imagining, like, look, they're going, like, blood is going everywhere, body pieces are going everywhere, people are screaming and shouting and crying, the people who are under the hammer are like screaming in pain, and you're watching these people, and you know that, like, nobody's coming to help, and you know that this is going to happen to you eventually. It's coming at you, and it's slowly moving its way towards you. And this is absolutely like pure horror.
Yeah.
And why
Some
did they do
people
this exactly? Mm.
Well, okay, so some people suggest, and I'm not gonna pretend to have familiarity with all the different actors in this region, but some people suggest that this is because of, um, elements of the Congolese military trying to push them back in certain areas, and the AEDF is known to conduct retaliatory operations against civilians because of, um, operations of the Congolese military in their army.
Wait, so what? Wait, so you're saying this? Sorry, you're saying this as a warning
Well, in retaliation to
or
actions by the
retaliation?
Congolese army. That's some
Mm.
analysis is saying that. And
Also,
also for the general purpose of sowing terror, fear, and religious persecution. I mean, they do this very intentionally in a church for a reason.
isn't this for also for recruiting purposes?
Yeah, sure, because the what ISIS will
Mm.
do when they claim ADF operations is they frame them as a they like ISIS taking responsibilities for these things, even though they don't seem to have like direct command, um, will frame this as an attack on Christians and crusaders. So within their network and sphere of influence, they are specifically making this a narrative of a religious war.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people need to know that when ISIS does stuff like this, there are other people around the world who look at this, and they're like, "Oh my God, thank you! This is the group that I should be joining." Um, I think a lot of people don't understand that mentality, but ISIS knows that by doing this, there are people who are like, "Oh, I used to believe in ISIS. They used to kill more, but I don't know anymore. They're not killing as much Christians today as they used to. So I'm going to go look for another group to join." And when ISIS does this, they're like, oh no, these people are still on top. This is the group that I need to join. They are doing God's work. So this actually works as recruiting material for ISIS, like advertise. This is for advertising. So
Yeah, like basically they ISIS has managed to kind of co-opt an element of a local insurgency. Like I said, this group originated decades ago, almost 30 years ago or
yeah, yeah,
something. Like and then it was more recently when ISIS was at its height, or not exactly its height, but in generally ISIS's heyday, that they had this like formal allegiance. And so now, I mean, something that was a conflict that started for a variety of different reasons, local insurgencies, they just like kind of put their brand on top of it so they can take credit for the bloodshed.
oh yeah, Muhammad in the chat is saying, I never realized these bastards have reached Africa. Oh, they're all over
Dude,
Africa.
ISIS is like, look, I'm no expert. I think they're like most active in Africa nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. Africa is their main base now, and they are main part of the politics of many African countries.
Like, this
Like,
is part of why the
governments.
Sahel is so messed up right now, part of why Mozambique is so messed up right now,
Yeah,
all up and down. Yeah.
right.
We got Sahel, Central Africa, West Africa, Mozambique,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. Um, yeah.
Sarah saying, Armin, do you think that Iran has a tie to this? So, not directly to this, but the ties that the Iranian regime has to groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda. First of all, ISIS and Al Qaeda would love to behead Khamenei if they get the chance to. Okay, and the Islamic Republic it fears and uses them at the same time. Depends on the situation. Like we have, like the Islamic Republic, sometimes is scared of them because they do want to come at them. Like they are enemies, but at the same time, the Islamic Republic sometimes uses their fear as a way to justify its oppression on Iranian people, and sometimes they actually allowed them, like basically open the door for them to do certain operations so that they could justify something else. It's complicated, but we have it both ways, you know. Sometimes you find them against each other, sometimes they are kind of working with each other, but depends. Yeah. Anyways, let me see what D got for us. Do you want me to stop here or go look at the
No, scroll down a
comments?
little bit more because that's just a recap, and then there's someone responding to
Yeah.
it, saying this is heartbreaking and devastating. It's hard to understand how such violence can happen, and even harder to grasp the lack of a global response. These innocent lives deserve justice and attention. I think,
Yeah.
if I'm being candid, well, there's many reasons why this doesn't get much of a global response. But part of it has to do with the fact that it's just so complicated. There's so many actors, and like I said, it can involve from a local insurgency into religious war, whatever, and it's for the average person, it's like difficult to um follow. And I think that's part of it.
Right. Guys, and also here's the thing: we can be upset about it, okay? But the global presence will be there when it makes economic sense, right? So that's how it is. And for the global response, for that to happen, Africa needs to be more economically important for the global response to be there. That's just how the world works, right? And I'm not saying that that's good. I'm just saying that's how it is.
Yeah.
So this one,
This person is saying the death of Christians is always a story the left don't want to hear about. Oh my god, they don't think it happens. Dude, honestly, My opinion is that, like, Christian evangelicals oftentimes don't have a huge leg on when it comes to making this accusation towards the left, because, like, when do you ever hear, like, like, American evangelicals, like, talking about the persecution of Christians in Pakistan? Like, they are treated like
I mean,
dirt. I talk about it more than they do. Like,
even when I see them do it, it feels like they need it to happen. You know what I mean? Like, because, or like, I've been to churches that they talk about, like, oh, Christians in Africa. Anyways, I
me
don't want
too.
to do any accusation. Yeah, I just don't want to make accusations. I think, like, the whole, they need to justify, they need Christians being prosecuted sometimes, because that's their whole thing. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this, maybe
Well, I
not.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I come from a Catholic background, so I have many memories of being in mass and having someone come to our local parish and giving a presentation about Christian persecution in certain countries, and we would raise money for them. And the Catholic Church is embedded in a lot of these areas in Africa that are the most persecuted. I mean, in Nigeria, Catholic priests are constantly being kidnapped. Like, so that was a very common part of my Catholic world. um, but I hear evangelicals talk more about Christian persecution in America, which I just find so offensive. Um,
Mm. Then
yeah.
this one, oh wait.
So this person is
It's-
covering the event and then saying, like, where's the coverage? Where's the outrage? Um, this person is responding like ditto, so meaning like the same could be said about Yazidis, Lebanese Christians, and probably more that I sadly don't know of. Basically, like, we don't focus
yeah.
on these minorities.
If Jews were doing this, if there was any link to Israel or Jews, I'm sure it would get global coverage.
We'd
Global
be
coverage. It
on it.
doesn't matter,
We'd
even
be
if it was,
on it.
yeah, even if it was in Africa, people would be on top of that right away.
Oh, one of the latest, like, Russian propagandas that's dropped lately is all these right-wing influencers, like, in sync, start talking about persecutions of Christians in Israel. I'm like, everyone gets the memo in the same week. I'm a little suspicious.
Yeah.
Um, Tommy
Okay,
Robinson
cool.
made a post, and or I guess whoever is administrating his account while he's in prison made this post. And scroll down, I think D probably captured this for a reaction. Um, saying these are the people that they want to distribute around the planet. So this is I'm inferring from this comment that this person is saying that these sorts of jihadis are the type of people that, I don't know what, like, the globalists, quote unquote, want to distribute around the planet. Like,
Well,
is that
Bill
seems
be
like the
okay?
accusation to me.
I mean, is Bill the type of person that would welcome the Christians that were being attacked into the UK, or is he just like completely against all of them combined? That's what I want to know. Like, is he against the Islamists, but like the Christians who were being attacked, would he open the border for them? Yeah, I don't know. Or he's like, no, no. Is he like, no? These are all of them are the same, and so it just get. Well,
I love
um,
Johnson. Tenant media energy, guys, right? Sometimes you just catch a vibe. You catch a vibe and you're like, this vibe is that this new narrative is not organic. This doesn't feel like an organic talking point. Mm, and right now, it feels like almost all of Twitter is giving tenant media energy. I'm gonna be honest. Um,
so Nike 45 was asking, ISIS and Hamas are interconnected. I mean, everything is interconnected, but Hamas is more Muslim Brotherhood based ideologically, and ISIS is Wahhabi based, right? And they don't see eye to eye. In fact, many times they consider themselves enemies, right?
No, and
Um,
sorry, I won't
yeah.
interrupt you. No,
No,
people
that's it. Like,
use footage of ISIS calling Hamas apostates to prove that ISIS is an Israeli creation. They're like, look,
wow.
ISIS is talking about how they hate Hamas, and Hamas is talking about how they hate ISIS.
Yeah.
Methinks there is something going on.
To
They're like,
say
okay,
that
you don't
ISIS is,
understand the ideological contentions.
to say I mean, to make the point that ISIS is Zionist or that Hamas
Yes,
is Zionist. I mean,
ISIS is
I've seen both, to
Zionist.
be fair. ISIS is Zionist.
You know this.
You know,
You
I've
know
seen,
this.
yeah. I mean, I've seen more accusations of ISIS being Zionist, but I've also seen accusations of Hamas being Zionist, which I think, like, we should tell. I think we should let Hamas leaders know. Wow, I don't know what they would feel about how they would feel about that. Let me see. One of the main evidence people have for ISIS being Zionist is that ISIS never attacked Israel.
Which
And
is
I'm like,
false.
y- I mean, even
They tried, they
I
weren't
mean,
successful.
yeah, it's because they are. It's very difficult for militia that is not in either Gaza or Shia Hezbollah controlled Lebanese border with Israel. How is ISIS going to attack Israel? I mean, Israel is very, very secure. I mean, I've been to Israel. Like the level of security that they have there is like something else. So it's very difficult for ISIS to attack Israel. But anyways, that is a conspiracy
Yeah.
theory. Okay. Yeah, so D is also pointing out that ISIS is takfiri. They go after Shias a lot. They go after Sunnis who have the slightest disagreement with their ideology.
Yeah.
They would be like, "Oh, you're not a Muslim." I mean, Hamas had elections. Elections. Do you know what ISIS thinks about elections? Like that is completely un-Islamic in their mind. That is kufr. That is basic. So the fact that Hamas came into power with elections in ISIS minds, that means like, oh, so you are ruling by man's law rather than God's law. You are the mushrikeen. So ISIS might
Y'all
consider Hamas
fake.
to be worse than. Yeah, they're like honestly,
Your
if I
shoes are
if
whack.
an
Your clothes are whack. Your elections are whack.
from an ISIS perspective, I could see why Hamas is worse than Zionists or worse than the Jews. Okay, because the Jew has them like ISIS are like, you know what? A Jew has demi status under if we bring a caliphate. You know, they will be humiliated, but they will be protected at the same time. But Hamas just had elections, which basically, as with the name of Muslims, they challenge the rule of Allah. They're the mushrikeen, they have no right to life. So, according from an ISIS mindset, a Jew has a right to life under an Islamic caliphate, but not a freaking mushrik like a Hamas person. So, yeah.
Wait, Shami is reacting to something in the chat. Like, do you not believe it's wrong? You're insane, absolutely sick. I'm genuinely disgusted to put in my stomach here. Shami, what's going on? What you talking about? What you talking about, buddy?
We're not we're not defending them. I'm just
No, I think he's
explaining
reacting
them.
to something that happened in the live chat, but I'm not sure what
Oh, okay.
happened.
What's happening?
Um, but
Oh, there was somebody defending slavery in the chat. That's it, what he's responding to. I
yeah,
think his response is justified. Yeah. Okay. No,
yeah.
not you guys. That idiot justifying slavery. Yeah, you go at him, Mama. Good job. Thank you.
Um,
You call him out. Call him out.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I think you're saying like, why is this person not banned? Like, look, if someone is
Oh,
gonna say
Cuba.
that kind of wild stuff, I actually appreciate them, like, letting us know that that's the kind of thing that they promote, you know what I mean? Helps me, dismiss a lot of their other bullshit. But I didn't see exactly what was said.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.